JD Vance is attacking Tim Walz over his military record.
When Tim Walz was asked by his country to go to Iraq, you know what he did? He dropped out of the Army and allowed his unit to go without him, a fact that he's been criticized for aggressively by a lot of the people that he served with. He said we shouldn't allow weapons that I used in war to be on America's streets. Well, I wonder, Tim Walz, when were you ever in war? What was this weapon that you carried into war, given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq, and he has not spent a day in a combat zone? What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage.
All right, Florida Congressman Cory Mills joins us. He has a military background. May I just lay out a timeline here? Walz left the National Guard in May 2005, 24 years of service. His unit was not given deployment orders to Iraq until July of that year. Walz had put in his retirement papers 5 to 7 months before he retired as a master sergeant. Congressman, you're a military guy. Was this fair criticism of Walz from Vance?
Well, it's not just a fact that, I was a military veteran. I'm a military combat veteran who had deployed to Iraq and served honorably with my unit. Look, I was not actually supposed to go to Iraq with my unit. I actually was at the end of my terminal service date and within a threshold that would have actually seen me transfer out. I went to my brigade commander and requested a 6-month extension so that I could deploy with my unit because I didn't want to leave them behind and then get stop lost as the war began. So I went to Iraq even though I had an out. But I knew that it was important not to have an abandonment of the men that I had trained with and that I was sworn to protect and fight alongside. That's very different in contrast to Walz, who left because he wanted to be a politician rather than looking out for trying to serve with his unit. The other thing that JD has talked about is the fact that people wanted to criticize Senator Vance. He actually deployed to Iraq. He actually served abroad in the United States Marine Corps honorably. And Tim Walz, who knew that he had never attended the Sergeant Major's Academy, continued to say that he was a Command Sergeant Major, even though he knew his military record reflected as a Master Sergeant. So there's a lot of embellishments, but the pattern of abandonment actually is fitting for the Democrat Party. Think about the fact that I had to go to Afghanistan to conduct the first successful rescue of Americans after Biden left them there. 255 Americans that I had to get out of Israel when Biden abandoned them there. And the 23 Americans I rescued in Haiti when Biden-Harris abandoned them there. So a pattern of abandonment seems to be a Democrat trait.
Okay, let's get it all out in the open. Next one. A Pakistani man with ties to Iran arrested, accused of planning assassinations of American politicians, including Donald Trump. Have we got terror cells in America already? And if so, what are we going to do about it?
Well, absolutely, we have terror cells within America. We've had an open border for almost 4 years that's had hundreds of people on the terrorist watch list come across and tens of millions of others, not to mention the fact that the border czar, as approved by the Biden resolution, Kamala Harris was the border czar responsible for this very thing. And so to think that after having 48 plus countries who's come across, knowing that they're Iranian, they're Russian, the cartels who've come across, the members that are part of gangs who know that President Trump will shut the border and impact their revenue stream, where Biden has been the employee of the month at $13+ billion in revenue. Of course, there are terror cells here in the United States as a result of failed administrations and the inability under Mayorkas to be able to secure our borders.
But we can't do anything about it, can we? Because we don't know where they are. We don't know who they are or where they are.
Because we have catch and release in this country, Varney, and people who are unable and unwilling to enforce the laws that are on the books, which is a violation of the Take Care Clause in the Constitution.
Cory Mills, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Come back soon. Thank you, Cory. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Stu.